Tennessee, David Tulis.
The Hicks Utility District has updated its website, and in the current edition of its newsletter, very attractively done newsletter, by the way, there is an admission that might shock your sensibilities, but that is in the area of the contaminant list, and fluoride it gives as a contaminant, right? It isn't a deliberately injected contaminant in the Hicks Utility District. It's done voluntarily. There's no law requiring fluoride or hydrofluorosilicic acid in the water supply in North Chattanooga. That's North Chattanooga, Hickson area with maybe 27,000, 25,000 or so customers. And the admission of fluoride as a contaminant has the following shocking words under the column of source of contamination. Here are the sources. Okay, there are three. One is erosion of natural deposits, water additive that promotes strong teeth, of course, just in a tiny subgroup of the consuming population of Hickson Utility District. And then the third is this, and it should be in red type, but it's just in black type on my printout. Discharge from fertilizer and aluminum factories. And that's what's being put by policy, by decision in the Hickson Utility District, a discharge from fertilizer and aluminum factories. That means to say an industrial waste product, which is hydrofluorosilicic acid, is being put into the water for the benefit of a tiny, tiny group of people who drink, bathe, and water gardens with that water. And that would be children probably aged 3 to 6 or 7 or so. This very bizarre, neurologically damaging material helps their teeth. Okay, everybody else be damned, but their teeth will be strong. They will avoid caries, as they're called, cavities, and they don't have to brush quite as vigorously or floss because they are drinking Hickson Utility District water. There's a board meeting at 4 p.m. Friday, and Heath Marcher, who is leading the charge for clean water, potable water from Hickson Utility District, will probably just sit there in the audience and just want you to know that this is a matter that's come back to life after he led a protest with favorable coverage from me at Hickson Utility District last year. And of course, that coverage was only at Nooganomics.com. Now, if you think that we're hearing a lot about the wall and Hispanics, and we're hearing a lot about DECA, the DECA Act, and so on, but let me just ask you, my conservative guy listener, a question. Okay, here's a question. You think you want to be free, right? You complain about not being free. You complain about totalitarianism and despotism and violations of the Constitution, and police abuse, roadblocks, and the whole bit. And yet you think somehow that all those things can be done to Hispanic people, to catch Hispanic people in some paper violation. And it's okay to do it if they're the object, right? But you're going to be free. You're going to be free, no hassle, no police state tactics against you, just against them. Well, that's just naive, and I think conservatives are leading the way in just being naive, especially Republicans who think that we can tyrannize people for visa violations and not tyrannize ourselves as well. There's a story that moved to Daily Bill, reposted at the Foundation for Economic Education about a roadblock in New Hampshire. Okay, an immigrant roadblock in New Hampshire on Highway Interstate 93. Every car stopped. Okay, that's illegal. It's simply unconstitutional for every car to be stopped and people inside interrogated as to whether they're Americans or not. And the writer, Joe Jarvis, tells about a friend from Brazil who had a 6-month visa. He could not stay more than 6 months. So what this man did was every 6 months, he spent $1,000 on a plane ticket, went overnight back to Brazil to stop the clock, right? The clock stopped. He came back for another 6 months. And he was finally told, no, you are violating your visa, even though he was following the rules strictly. So how is it that if you follow the rules strictly, you are called a violator and brought to task? This is an element of unpredictability in enforcement. The more laws you have, the more unpredictability you have, the more abuse you have, the more friction you have. And so there's an incentive for people to overstay their visas, because who can afford $1,000 every 6 months for a useless plane trip just to keep compliant, right? Here's a man trying to be compliant, was compliant, and is being thrown out. I think we have a problem, okay? We need to understand that these are abuses. The Constitution is violated. Article 1, Article 5 in the Bill of Rights violated so we can keep people who are innocent of any crime. These are people who are here. They speak Spanish. They have dark skins, dark, oily hair, a lot of children. They've committed no crimes, and you are willing for them to be harassed and are you willing to accept violations of the Constitution to get that done? Well, I'd say that if you are in that group, you need to go through a roadblock and suffer the sweat and the humiliation of being interrogated, having done nothing, having done absolutely nothing. And I think and the reason I can see that is not because I'm a progressive liberal, but I am a free market defender. Okay, if you defend the free market, these kinds of things will just grate against you. They grate and they grate, and you hate them. Okay, you, my conservative listener, my guy listener, the man who owns all the rifles and who cares about the Constitution, and your hallowed liberties, you are bringing it on yourself, because if you want it to be done to these aliens and strangers, then you're going to have it done to yourself, and you're just going to have to accept it. So you are torn, and I want you to suffer for it. I want you to think about it, because you've got to make some decisions. You're either for the free market and under constitutional protections, or you're for tyranny everywhere, because tyranny does not stop with people with brown skin only. Okay, it's going to sweep you and your white skin and your black skin into the dragnet. And I want to caution you. I think you need to think about this. Not because I want you to become a Democrat, not because I want you to follow the open borders thinking of Mrs. Clinton or anything like that, but I just want you to ask yourself, do you want assertions and exertions of federal power more? Have we not had enough? I think it's time that we defend the free market and we defend local economy and the free market, especially if that local economy is adorned by beautiful paintings, such as the kind produced by a local painter. Her name is Miki Boni, who lives in the South Side. And she and her husband, Tom, have 2 grown children. She's a native New Yorker. You can maybe tell from her accent, but she's lived in many parts of the world. Florida, for one. And what's the foreign country, Bonnie? Miki?
In Mexico.
In Mexico for a decade.
Almost
a decade. Yeah. Also as artist at the
as
time?
An artist, yes. I taught.
Now tell my listener who's just joining us, Miki, what kind of work you produce? You're a painter. And how would you characterize? What is he looking at when he sees your work at In-Town Gallery?
It depends on what I was painting at the time. I like to paint realism, but I like to spike realism with a little inner vision, something that comes from inside rather than what I see out there.
Well, I'm holding here for my viewer on Facebook and a viewer on YouTube, Miki, a painting that's one of a series, I think, of 17 selfies, and it's a woman with she has kind of a gray skin. There's an orange background. She has kind of orangish hair. She's wearing sunglasses, and it's a mysterious figure from a selfie that you have from a friend on Facebook.
Yes, it is.
Describe what's the effect of this painting on my listener who's just trying to imagine it, right? He's just trying to imagine it. What's the effect on him if he can see it properly?
Well, hopefully, looking at it subjectively, he'll see in there what comes to him, not what came to me.
A beautiful girl.
A beautiful girl. A girl who's giving him a kiss with some red lips. That could be a guy's.
Yeah, there's maybe something of fantasy in this picture.
That's coming from a guy.
Coming from a guy. That's right. The guy listener.
That's right. That's right. Well, each one's different. I have guys with long beards. Yeah. I have all kinds of different people looking at
children and children. Girls. One man with a cigarette. They all have sunglasses. How is the sunglass theme? Why did that end up being important in this sequence?
I like glasses. And I noticed that a good majority of people were wearing sunglasses. I had one guy took a selfie of himself in a car. So in his sunglasses reflected the dashboard of the car. So I kind of like that.
Now you use oils. What's the difference between oils and watercolors, Miki?
Oh, big difference. One is water and one's oil. It's actually backwards. When you're painting with watercolors, you leave the white blank and paint around it. With oils, you use every space and paint in.
I didn't quite get that. Say that again, please.
Well, when you're painting with watercolors, it's actually opposite of painting with oils because you use the paper, the white of the paper, to be a color. With oils, everything is opposite.
Okay, so with oils, if you want white, you have to put white paint on the canvas, right?
And acrylic, You have to paint real quick because it dries real quick.
Now, your work is at In Town Gallery, which is a co-op. Explain how a co-op works. It's for my listener who wants to think about it. This is a co-op is a picture of the voluntarist society that I would suggest is a fruit of Christianity, where things are done cooperatively rather than coercively. There's a difference there. How does a gallery work that's owned cooperatively?
Well, it's been here for a long time, since 1974. So obviously they're doing something right. And what I'd like to talk about as being a member is we cooperate. We each work it. We're all owners. We all have a stake in the outcome of the gallery. It's a business. Each one of us has a role to play. We use whatever our skills are to be part of that business.
Is the business profitable?
The business is profitable. You can be a little.
So
bit
everybody
more
gets a
profitable.
dividend check at the end of the year?
No,
How does that
it's
work?
not. We all show our work, and we get a certain amount from the work we sell, and the rest goes back into the business to keep it running.
And so at the end of the year, there's not a dividend check, but there is reduced cost, right? Because if you have more money coming in than going out in the operation of the
That's
building
right.
and so on, the profit is not distributed by check, but by reducing the cost next year.
That's
right?
true. Very well put.
Does that work like that?
It works like we each pay something.
So there is a profit. It's just not remuneration. It's just not a check that you
That's
have to
right.
pay a tax on.
That's right. It's a wonderful model, and I'm very happy to be part of that model.
Well, I know in the Chattanooga area, there's an electrical co-op that runs from Bradley County, maybe part of Hamilton County, all the way up to the Kentucky border, and it's a co-op as well. I think it's VEC. I'm not remembering the name, but the profit goes back to the members who are the customers. They get the benefit is lower costs and profit returned to them in lower costs.
That's true.
And how many artists are at the In-Town Gallery?
There's in about middle 30s, about 34,
And
35.
how is it divided between the sexes?
I'd say it's pretty equal. Maybe a little bit more on the women's side, but pretty equal.
And there are painters. There are people who work in glass,
glass, yes, clay,
Any
any
sculptors
form
there?
of art you've ever seen in any gallery or Sunday market, they're there.
Now, how has the digital revolution in images, Miki Boni, affected you or drawn you toward its magic?
Oh, that's a good question. I love digital. I'm a happy person when I'm able to explore the unknown. And what I'm doing now is taking my paintings. These are my kids. I'm taking these paintings and putting them together to make a painting of a third kind, which is something I don't know what the name is yet. What could we call the name of something like that? So I'm experimenting with it, and I'm calling my first one Rebirth.
Is the thing viewed by the viewer, my listener?
Mhm.
Is it of birth or rebirth, or is that just a concept of something
It's
describing
it's-
something completely different, like a jar of flowers or something?
Rebirth is the birth again of paintings that appeared in a different way, and when I put them together, and I make a painting of a third kind.
So the manipulation of the paint, you scan the paintings or take a photograph of
Yes.
them, and then you disassemble them
Mhm.
effectively dot by dot, right? I mean,
So I
there are lines
disassemble them.
that you cut through your photographs of your work,
Mhm.
and then describe what you do.
Well, once I've looked at how I want it to look when it's finished, I will cut and paste in a different way so that the end product is a whole new painting.
So it's kind of recycling in a way.
Oh, I like that.
Recycling,
Yeah.
refashioning,
Yeah.
Reusing, repurposing, an
Repurposing.
old building. But here you've got
That's right.
two old paintings. Let's
Nothing
say.
gets thrown away, and I miss my old paintings, and I want to see them.
So this is how you're taking account of some of your old stock that you hadn't sold, right?
Well, no, they're sold. I just miss them.
Now, are you saying these are paintings that are already out in the wide world, Miki Boni?
Some of them are. Some
Okay,
of them aren't.
okay.
Oh, definitely.
No infringement on the owner's rights.
No,
on
they
that
always
image?
belong to me.
And that's because you've attached the painting itself on the canvas is gone and is on adorning someone's wall, but you have a photograph of that, and that photograph is your property, and so you're going to include part of that buyer's work in this new visual venture.
Yes, sir. Exactly right.
And well, are others other painters doing this? What's the future of this line of
well, the
production,
digital
Miki?
art is out there, and it's out there in many different forms. Some artists will take photographs and combine photographs to make another reality. So bottom line is I'm doing it with my own work.
And how are sales of this line? Have you started trying to sell these paintings?
Yes, I have. I'm doing very well.
Well, now the production is not, of course, by brush. The production is by printer, right?
That's right.
And you use a local printer to project the image, the newly made image, onto is it paper or
canvas?
Cardboard?
I use canvas.
Okay.
I have someone do that for us, and it works out.
And which shop do you use? I know is it one
you
on?
Want me to give you a free?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
plug?
I may have interviewed the owner.
Okay, Art Warehouse.
Art Warehouse, and where's that?
They are in East Brainerd, and they do very good work.
So Art Warehouse, and so that shop, which has a lot of big cameras, big film, right, projecting your image onto the canvas, makes a new painting.
It's called a giclée print. A giclée is a French word for ink.
Giclée, okay.
Yeah.
Clé is key in French, and
yeah.
I'm not sure what that word means.
Jet.
And it's inkjet. Okay. Well, we're talking with Miki Boni. This is David Tulis. Thank you for giving us a couple of minutes of your time. We are glad you're joining us. Brought to you by Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters. That is to say, not a very popular website. And that is because, in the end, very few people matter. And I hope you, my listener, will, if you're not one who matters, that you will become one. And that is that you will think in the direction of our labors in favor of local economy and the free market, where we deny, we rebut, refute, and reject the similitudes of our day, the provincial claims of our day, the conventionalities of our day, and those are that far is better than big, that big is better than small, and that complex is better than simple. And even in the footnotes, they will claim against you and against me that corporate is better than personal, and they will insist that abstract always beats physical. But we say no. We, in fact, argue not just negating their claims that we are living out the positive ethic of local economy and the free market, which I suggest is a fruit of Christianity. Now, the hardest question we have hardly any time to get to, Miki Boni, painter in the South Side, and that is beauty objective, or is there only a subjective expression by the artist?
Is this going to be a conversation about eye of beholder? And if it is, nobody could see the way each artist sees. Nobody could see the way I see. So when I post something on a canvas, it's something you haven't seen before. So it's going to be the eye of the beholder, because you'll have to make sense of it. You've never seen it
okay, but the question is still hanging. Is beauty something that's objective, and there's an objective beauty that's beautiful even if people don't like it, or is there no such thing as beauty because there is only the subjective claim of the artist and the viewer?
I like that. That last one you said.
Okay, so there is no beauty is not objective. That's my question.
No, beauty is not objective.
It is not objective. So there's
each culture has their own subjective or objectivity of beauty.
Okay, so because they're different cultures, that by itself denies the prospect of there being an objective standard.
Yeah, if we were aliens on another planet, what would be their beauty? It's just it's got to be subjective.
Well, but what you're doing, though, Miki, is suggesting that there's a multiverse and that there's not a universe. The idea of a universe implies a single creator. Of course, that my argument would be that's God. And even though there are many cultures, many languages, and many skin colors, and many cultures, there is an objective standard. But that's mistaken. You suggest.
I wander into uncharted territory just to see what's there.
You mean in creating your work? In
creating my work, whether it's a multiverse or a universe, whether there's one God over all of them, it's not my job.
Your argument is that I'm authentically presenting what I'm seeing, and therefore, because it's authentic and genuine, and it is true then, it's true because it comes from me, and you're trying to convey your vision to the viewer, the buyer of your work.
It's my truth. It may not be the buyer's truth or the looker's truth, but it's my truth.
And how does that? How do you sell anything if that's the case? How do people buy your work?
If someone resonates with my truth, if somebody resonates with what they're seeing, then they'll want it on their wall. If they don't, they walk on to the next painting.
Well, okay, I'm not satisfied with that. We're going to have to pursue that question another day. This is David Tulis, and we're talking with Miki Boni. What's the website again?
www.mikiboni.com.
MIKIBONI.com. Thanks, Miki, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Miki's work is at In-Town Gallery. As you come in there on that south side, haven of visual delights, her work is on the front. There's also a new book there that's called Figment, available for your perusal and your purchase. David Tulis here. We cover local economy and the free market. Now, I've got some business to get to, and it's going to be complicated. It's going to be complicated and tricky, but it touches on Neil Pinkston and an ancient grievance, a 19-year-old grievance that Neil Pinkston has not addressed. David Tulis, the DA.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 12.